Alright YouTube, this is the Great Simulator back with another van expediting video. This is going to be a weekly recap for the week of July 20th through July 26th. And also, we'll bring up a topic concerning hand unloading. Before I get into that, I want to go over the weekly recap. I only had 2 loads for the week. That's mainly because of how long I sat in Laredo, Texas. I got there on a Sunday, just this past, not this past Sunday, but the Sunday before last. I got there Sunday around 3 or 4 p.m. I sat all the way until Friday at the same time. So I sat for 5 days in Laredo, Texas. And man, let me tell you, it was hot as hell. I mean, there were a lot of triple digit days. It made you appreciate the days when it got down to like 91 for a high, 90 for a high. You know, even though it's still 90s and it's still Laredo, but you know, it's a different kind of feeling versus when it's 100 degrees and it's in Laredo. So nonetheless, 2 loads for the week. The first one, of course, left out of Laredo, Texas, and that was from our yard for the company that I work for. It was going up to Plymouth, Michigan. There was no deadhead on that, but it was 1,606 miles loaded, and ended up paying $1,200. So out of that, I got my 60%, which is $720. You know, and I requested fuel on that load, so you know, that took away $345, which left me with $375 for my pay. That load weighed 260 pounds. It was a very light load, going up just west of Detroit. So after I dropped that off, this is pretty much going to lead into my second topic: hand unloading. When is it worth it? When is it not worth it? Okay, I say that because the second load I had, it had to pick up in Romulus, Michigan, which I was about maybe 6-7 miles out. Going to Detroit, only 30 miles away. Not even 30 miles, like 28 miles. And it was a hand unload. Dispatch called me, said that there was a short load. It's gonna pay out $200, which includes my little extra for hand unload. Now that's another thing too. Depending on the company you work for, you do get paid extra money if you decide to unload some freight by hand. If you ever have to get to that point where you do have to unload freight by hand, you call your company first before you touch that freight. Because the moment you start touching and the moment you start helping without prior approval, you can get a situation where you do not get paid for it. The reason saying that is because they usually will contact the customer and see if they will agree to pay extra money. And if they do, there you go. If they don't, then guess what? You don't touch the freight. They either have to unload it, or they have to find some way to unload it. So anyway, I had to pick up some, I'm assuming something medical supplies or something medical. Dropped it off at the hospital in Detroit. They said it was about 7 mile deadhead, about 28 miles loaded. It paid me $200. I went ahead and took it. It paid me $120. I did not request fuel on that, so I will get that whole amount back. But it was a hand unload. 72 pieces. So, dispatch, they were thanking me so much for taking that load. So I said, okay. Now, it was 72 pieces weighing 2,168 pounds. So at least you know that the average box is going to be about 30 pounds. And was so excited. I got there, they had it on pallets. I'm like, cool. I may not have to hand unload. Wrong. I got to the hospital. It took a while to figure out where I was going in the hospital. Then when I got there, they have a loading dock, but nothing for a van. So I got there and they had a little blue ramp where it could lower, with the, a couple buttons. So I tried to come up with this masterful idea that, maybe if you lower it and I position this van just right, the doors, or not the door, the ramp lever should just fall flat right on the van. Nope, that idea didn't work. So we had to hand unload 2 pallets that had 36 boxes each, and it was 100 degree weather. And I said, normally our company that I work for is no touch freight, so you're not forced to touch it. Simply if they call you with the load that requires you to touch it, you can always just turn it down. You can always tell them I don't want it, and then they'll just give it to the next person. But I was number 8 in line when they called me for that load, so that lets me know that people were turning it down for that reason. Probably 1, because the load was so short. 2, because they were going to be hand unloading 72 boxes that weighs 30 pounds each. So the question comes to mind, is it worth hand unloading when you know that your company may only pay you pennies on the dollar? And what I mean by that, sometimes you're lucky if you get $25 for doing that. So I went ahead, I did it anyway. And then this morning, my boss ends up sending me $50 for a bumper fee, which a bumper fee is basically when you're paid a fee to unload something by hand and you're normally not required to. So in my case, I'm usually not required to touch any of the freight. Now there's times where I might have 2 pallets on and the first one gets unloaded. If the second one is pretty light because it's closer to my bed, then I will pull it forward. That's the most I'll do. And it's very rare as a no-touch freight company that you actually do touch freight. It's very rare. It does happen. I say it happens to me maybe once every time I'm out on the road. Maybe that, at best. So is it worth it though? Is it worth it? Like, for that particular situation, it was, because not only did I get paid extra to unload from my company side, but then my fleet owner sent me an extra $50 for a hand unload. So I made about an extra $100+ off of that hand unload. Do you have to do a hand unload? Most certainly not. You don't have to. It is not required of you. The company doesn't force you, because again, it's no forced dispatch with my company. So with that being said, if they call you and they say, hey, we have a load for you, but you have to hand unload 100 boxes, a lot of people will turn that down just because it's just really not worth it. It was a short run for 1, so you're really not getting paid a whole lot for it. 2, it's a hand unload and you're hand unloading 100 boxes. A lot of people, that's not worth it. They're not gonna deal with the hassle, just pass it on to the next person. The only reason I took it, which is what makes it worth it to me, is that I was able to get 1 more load under my belt for the week. Because I was only had the one Laredo to Michigan run. And then when they offered me this little one, it picked up, it dropped off in the same day. So I added that to my pay stub. So it made a somewhat slow week to a somewhat better week. It's not my best weeks, but it's definitely not my worst week. So, you have to make that decision yourself if hand unloading is worth it. There's some people that don't do hand unloads under any situation. There's some that will do it whenever because they'll turn down loads, and there's some that'll do it for the right price. You know, I took it because it was able to add another load for my paycheck. So that made it worth it. In some cases, it may not be worth it so much. You know, especially if you're not going to get paid a whole lot for it. If the load is a short run, it's probably not worth it. You know, if the weather elements doesn't suit you, it may not be worth it. Because let me remind you, it was like 90 plus degrees when I was hand unloading this yesterday. And it did not sit well with me, but it paid itself out at the end. Because, again, I got paid extra from my company, then I got paid extra from my fleet owner. Not all fleet owners will do that. So do keep that in mind. I just happen to have one that did do it. So I just wanted to give you a weekly recap for July 20th through July 26th. I am in my last week right now, and then I'm going to be going home next week. So I'm on my run right now to Portland, Tennessee from Toledo, Ohio. So that will be included in my next weekly recap. If you have any questions about expediting, what's expediting, whatever, be sure to leave a comment below. And until next time, folks, take care.